No flags were harmed in the creation of my thumbnail today. I'd like to point that out. No actual American flags were harmed in the creation of my thumbnail. if you're watching online, you know what we're talking about. No flags were harmed in the creation. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, on iTunes, on iHeart, wherever you happen to be listening, first of all, thank you so much for being here. This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. And man, what a busy weekend. What a busy day we've had so far. Donald Trump just does press conference after press conference after press conference. He went from one press conference this morning where he was doing some executive order signings. He was signing executive orders. And then he went directly into another press conference with the, what's the guy's name? He's the president or prime, I'm not sure what it is, president of South Korea. His last name is Lee. That's really what his last name is, Lee, which is, I guess, kind of stereotypical, but you know what, whatever. It is what it is. But here, let me pull this up real quick because they are still, we're not going to watch the whole thing, but I do want to watch a little bit of it just so you can get a sense of what President Donald Trump's been doing all day.
We want to have a meeting. I like to have a meeting. I get along great with him. You know, you were there. We even had a press conference. He had his first press conference. Kim Jong-un had a press conference. This was a little different press conference. I said, have you done a press conference?
They're talking about, we're going to go to the White House feed because the White House feed is way better. But this is they're talking about Kim Jong-un
and I want to get his,
in North Korea.
Kim Jong-un wants to meet. When do you want to meet with him?
With who?
You said the North Korean leader.
With who?
How soon would you?
Yeah, we want to have a meeting. I like to have a meeting. I get along great with him. You know, you were there. We even had a press conference. He had his first press conference. Kim Jong-un had a press conference. This was a little different press conference. I said, have you done a press conference before? No. And you know what? He did great. It was a great press conference, actually. It was historic. I doubt he's done one since. But I said, would you like to meet the fake news? Because whatever you want to do. And they came in like you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, so that's Donald Trump. He's like I said, he's at the White House right now. They're talking about the Korean Peninsula. They're talking about all these things that are going on. A lot of investment. You know, there was some tumult, as they say, which is just basically chaos in South Korea earlier this year. But the new president seems to get everything under control. Donald Trump talking about there's a lot. South Korea is a strategic economic and military partner for the United States of America. I kind of forget that myself sometimes. I never really think about South Korea. You always talk about North Korea, right? But no one ever really considers South Korea. But it's a thing. It's a thing that we got to deal with, and it's something that's important to our country. So that's why Donald Trump is here speaking with a lot of money, a lot like Samsung, all the, Hyundai, all that kind of stuff comes out of South Korea as well. But earlier today, before he got into the press conference with President Lee, Donald Trump had another press conference for over an hour. I mean, think about this. In the midst of all this, saving the country he's doing, in the midst of all this, presidenting that Donald Trump does, in the midst of all these travels and plans and meetings, he's doing multiple press conferences a day. The one this morning lasted over an hour, and he signed a couple of executive orders, one of which was the executive order against flag burning.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You can do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, You get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
Incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act. 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it. But this is something that's, I don't know, in a certain way, it's equally as important. Some people would say it's more important. Because the people in this country don't want to see our American flag burned and spit on. And by people that are, in many cases, paid agitators. They're paid by the radical left to do it. You talk to these people, they don't even know, half of them don't even know what they're doing. They say, I don't know, they gave me money to do this. I see the same things that you do. They're bad people. They're trying to destroy our nation. That's not working, because I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world, by far. You saw that with the European leaders on Friday. You saw that with NATO, where they agreed to go from 2% no pay to 5% fully paid up, trillions of dollars paid, where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe, and I like those people. They're good people. They're great leaders. And we've never had a case where 7 plus really 28, essentially 38 countries were represented here the other day. 38 European countries were represented. European and other countries were represented, and it was a great meeting. But your country is respected again. I say it all the time. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Everybody said it. We had a dead country. We were not going to survive. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So it's an honor to be involved. And this group has a lot to do with it, right behind me.
And there he goes. Then he signs the executive order, which is it's an interesting executive order. It's really interesting what they did. It's very creative. So there's been a challenge to flag burning executive orders or laws in the past based on the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech. And a lot of people say burning the flag, spitting the flag on the flag, stomping on the American flag. It's all protected by the First Amendment, which, okay, yeah, I mean, kind of it is. But Donald Trump and his team of lawyers, his legal eagles, they went and they investigated and they said, okay, well, what else happens? When somebody burns a flag, what are the circumstances of said flag burning? Is it because they're cold? Is it because they forgot to pay their heating bill? What is the reason why they're burning flags? Well, typically when they burn a flag, they're in some kind of protest and there's other protesters around. And when somebody burns a flag, there's a bunch of people that get really riled up and angry, maybe fellow flag burning lunatics or some patriotic Americans who don't like to see the symbol of their freedom and their liberty and their country and their beloved burned to a crisp, charred for protest purposes. Either way, it incites a riot. It incites violence, and that is against the law. So the executive order it makes flag burning illegal, and the term of incarceration is 1 year for inciting violence and inciting a riot. And that's a really, I got to be honest with you, that's a very creative workaround. I kind of like that one myself. And Donald Trump says, look, the whole point is that if you incarcerate people, if you put them in jail, if you don't let them get out for stupid reasons or for bail, all that other kind of stuff. If somebody breaks the law or does something destructive or damaging or just anti-American and you put them in jail, then they're not going to do it anymore. That's what we're starting to see in D.C. In D.C., you had all these young kids on the street gangs, the carjackers, the muggers, the ones that beat big balls to a pulp. Those kids, they never went to jail. They got released on their own recognizance or on home arrest, or they got community service or whatever, but they didn't get any hard time. Now they're going to get hard time thanks to Judge Jeanine Pirro. And Judge Jeanine Pirro is all about bringing crime, under control, not just in Washington, D.C., but around the nation. And so Donald Trump says, throw these people in jail for a year, the flag burning will stop. The first person that you throw in jail for a year, everyone else will get the message and the flag burning will stop. So I imagine, here's how I see this going. I imagine now that Donald Trump has signed an executive order against flag burning, some really angry leftist, lunatic, liberal protesters are going to go out there and burn a flag. One of them will get sentenced to prison and thrown in there for a year, and the rest of them will never burn flags ever again. And that's basically the way these things go with Donald Trump. Will there be court challenges? Absolutely. I'm sure there's probably some already, because there's a bunch of people out there that are going to argue it's the First Amendment right. You can't burning a flag, as long as you do it safety and you don't violate any, fire laws or whatever. Burning a flag is protected by the First Amendment of the United States of America. Stomping on a flag, flying a flag upside down, all those things, it's all part of free speech. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But in the meantime, like we said, Donald Trump and his team have come up with some kind of legal workaround by making flag burning not just anti-American, but they've made it an incitement of violence and rioting. And that, my friends, is against the law. Speaking of going to jail, Jeanine Pirro is also about cashless, getting rid of cashless bail. Cashless bail is just stupid. I don't know why they call it cashless bail. It's either bail or it's not bail. But cashless bail is something that has been a huge problem in a lot of different jurisdictions, not just D.C., but Chicago and New York and everywhere else. And Jeanine Pirro and President Donald Trump are working to stop it.
The president, and I just spoke to him, he will be signing this shortly. This is when all of the problems started. If you think about what is going on in this country, it is when this movement started to reduce and eliminate cash bail that all the trouble started. So here in D.C., we've got defendants who are committing violent crimes who are being released out onto the streets. They are reoffending, and they're reoffending again. And this is where the trouble begins. The public is not safe when violent criminals repeatedly prove to us that they are not a risk that we can tolerate anymore, when they are not put in jail. And in the end, the president is recognizing, as part of his Make D.C. Safe and Beautiful, that in order to do that, we've got to get the violent criminals off the street. And the president is literally transforming the safety landscape of Washington, D.C.
The safety landscape of Washington, D.C. is being transformed by President Donald Trump and his initiatives to make D.C. safe again. And we saw that there have been no murders in 9 days, which is unheard of. In fact, J.D. Vance shared, right before Donald Trump signed this executive order, J.D. Vance shared a statistic which is really, when you think about it this way, when you think about what was going on in D.C., how many murders there were in D.C., and now what's going on in D.C. and how many murders there aren't. When you think about it this way, it really puts everything in perspective as to how much of a hero President Donald Trump is, and how his second administration here, his second term in office, is truly, again, transformative.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks, Mr. President. Thanks to the incredible team here. I was... want to echo something the president said, where you say there haven't been murders in a couple of weeks in D.C., and it doesn't sound good, but then you talk to local law enforcement, and I didn't realize that this town averaged one murder every other day for the last 20, 30 years, which means that in 2 short weeks, the president and the team have saved 6 or 7 lives, people who would have been killed on the streets of D.C., who are now living, breathing, spending time with their families, because the president had the willpower to say, no more. We're not going to give the streets of D.C. over to vagrants and robbers and murderers. And the last point I want to make, sir, to your point about we want people to welcome us, to ask us, because look at Governor Pritzker in Illinois, or Governor Newsom in Los Angeles, or Governor Moore in Maryland. They are angrier about the fact that the President of the United States is offering to help them get their crime under control than they are about the fact that murderers are running roughshod over their cities and have been for decades. Why are Democrat governors angrier about federal law enforcement helping clean up their streets than they are about the fact that those streets need to be cleaned up to begin with? It shows a real sickness in the head. And I agree with the President of the United States. I think most Democrats, rank and file, nobody likes crime. Republicans don't like crime. Democrats don't like crime. Independents don't like crime. Why are Democratic governors doing everything in their power to make crime easier to do in their cities? It doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. But, Mr. President, I appreciate you being willing to help. And I hope these governors take you up on the offer, because we should clean up all of America's streets. It's the right of every American to live in safety and comfort in their community.
All right, a lot going on there. First of all, J.D. Vance is getting a lot of FaceTime. I think Donald Trump is really prepping him for the big leagues. There was that announcement. He said, well, J.D. Vance, probably he's the next one up because he's the vice president, and Marco Rubio would be a great vice president, for him to run with. But Every time they're in the Oval Office now, J.D. Vance seems to be right there. And President Donald Trump turns around and goes, J.D., would you like to say something? Mr. Vice President, would you like to say? He's right there, literally on his right hand, right, his right-hand man. It's J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi. Last week it was J.D. Vance, Howard Lutnick. You know, it's all the usual players. But it's always, or Rick Grinnell, pardon me, rather, when they were talking about the Kennedy Center and FIFA's World Cup, it's always J.D. Vance. He was on the Sunday shows yesterday, too, sticking it to Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. That woman, I thought Margaret Brennan was the least intelligent woman on the Sunday morning shows, but it turns out it could be Kristen Welker. They may have to have a dumb bait to see who the, is that a thing? A dumb bait? If it's not, we should make it one. We should have them both come on. We should ask them questions and we should see who's dumber and call it a dumb bait. I like that. We'll do a live fake news media dumb bait between Kristen Welker and Margaret Brennan to see if Meet the Press or Face the Nation hosts score lower in the IQ department. But Donald Trump, he signed the cashless bail amendment. He came in and said, great, the executive order, done. We're going to sign it so that DC and everywhere else can be safe again.
Okay, let's go. Could I
Yes,
ask
sir.
you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, back to J.D. Vance, and then we'll get to Governor Pritzker. So J.D. Vance says Donald Trump has already saved 6 or 7 lives. If you think about it, Donald Trump, what he's done in D.C., if the average murder was once every 2 days, and it's been 14 days since Donald Trump brought in the National Guard and federalized the district, and there's been no murders in 9 days, then Donald Trump has saved about 6 people so far in 14 days. And every day that there's no more murder in D.C., Donald Trump can be credited with saving another life, because that was the average. Once every 2 days there was a murder, and now there's none. And J.D. Vance says that's truly incredible. But the Democrats, he says they don't like crime. I think they do. Because they're not doing anything to stop it. Zohran Mamdani in New York City is the front runner right now. Zohran Mamdani is the front runner for mayor in New York City. And that guy wants to get rid of police. That guy wants to get rid of not only the police department, but he wants to get rid of all the bail. He wants to get rid of misdemeanors. He doesn't want misdemeanors to be a crime anymore. He says there's too many penalizations against our citizens. So he's just going to get rid of, his goal to solving crime is to just making nothing illegal. So how do you do it? Well, we could get the criminals off the street and maybe, rehabilitate them. No, that's too hard. All right, well, let's just get rid of all the laws and then there won't be any crimes. Oh, that's the Zohran Mamdani way. Less work for everybody, but more danger too. That's what they're doing in Chicago. That's what they're doing in Baltimore. The governor of Maryland, openly mocking President Donald Trump, and Baltimore is one of the worst and deadliest cities on the planet. I mean, it is. I think DC slid by, but Baltimore has been notoriously poorly run. It has been a slum. It has been a ghetto. It has had crime. You may remember the riots a few years back in Baltimore. It is unsafe. The murder rate, the drugs. Going to Baltimore was never something we wanted to. We would go if we had to. If we had to go to the airport or go downtown for something. When I lived in DC, it was like, where is this event being held? In Baltimore, we'd be like, oh, get the Kevlar. It was a well-known fact. And now what's happening is you've got all of these other cities that should be begging Donald Trump for help. And instead, they're doing the opposite. They're thumbing their nose at Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, look what we did in D.C. We're saving lives. We've already saved 6 lives, 7 lives, 8 lives. We don't even know how many. It's great. Again, we got rid of the homeless population. We reestablished them in new areas. We cleaned up their encampments. We got the trash off the street. Crime is down 39%. Carjackings are down 80%. Gang violence, all these things, drugs and guns and murderers and illegal immigrants are all coming off of the street. Are there any other cities that would like our help? You'd think they'd be lining up. You think Donald Trump's phone would be ringing off the hook from Chicago, from New York, from these other cities going, please, please send the National Guard. Newark, New Jersey, send in the National Guard. No, they're saying, don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't even try to bring your troops into our crime-ridden cities.
He should be requesting us to be there. And the governor of Illinois should be. Chicago's a disaster. And the governor of Illinois should say, President, would you do us the honor of cleaning up our city? We need help. They need help. They need help.
So are you waiting for
We may wait. We may or may not. We may just go in and do it, which is probably what we should do. The problem is, it's not nice when you go in and do it and somebody else is standing there saying, as we give great results, say, we don't want the military. They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help. Just look at the crime statistics. Look at the statistics that JD said about, even I didn't know it was that bad. That's terrible.
Yeah, they even Donald Trump was like, wow, I learned JD Vance is teaching me a thing or two about this crime. But they should be begging us. They should be begging us, and we're ready. And we have the military. I mean, recruitment's through the roof. We've got more military men and women now than we ever have. The military is back. Everybody wants to be part of the military. Everyone wants to work for Pete Hegseth, who was also there in the Oval Office. Everybody wants to be part of the greatest fighting force ever made. It's like the early 80s when Top Gun was #1 at the box office and people were racing. People were quitting their jobs, their high-paying jobs, to go and sign up to be part of the Navy because they wanted to be Maverick and Goose. Probably more Maverick because Goose dies. Spoiler alert. But, they want to be Maverick and Iceman. We'll go with that. That's probably more likely. And they wanted Ray-Bans and they wanted the leather jackets. They wanted all that stuff. That's what happened in the 80s. It's happening now again with President Donald Trump. Tom Cruise and President Donald Trump, those are the two men who have done more for military recruitment in this country than any other time in history. Maybe Abraham Lincoln, but definitely Tom Cruise and Donald Trump. They've done more for military recruitment than any two individuals in our nation's history. And now we have the military, we have the personnel, we have the authority, we have the troops. We can put those boots on the ground in any American city. We're ready to go.
We're ready to go anywhere. We have a full complement of great human beings. We're full. Our military is full. We were way empty 1 year ago. Now we're full. So we can go anywhere on less than 24 hours notice.
Yeah, and that is, we're full. We got, sorry folks, military's full. Moose out front should have told you. That's what that sounds like to me. But I mean, that's the thing. That's what Donald Trump has done. He's made everything great again. And it's truly, truly incredible to see. It's truly, truly incredible to watch. Now in Chicago, I've been to Chicago a couple times. I haven't been to Chicago since it became Chirac. I think it was Spike Lee called it Chirac. Remember Spike Lee got in a lot of trouble because he called it Chirac. And I thought it was a cute name. I think he actually made a movie. Wasn't there a movie called Chirac, something like that? And basically the idea was that, hey, guess what? This city is so bad. This city is so dangerous that we are going to call it Chirac, which means, Iraq and Chicago, you put it together. That's how dangerous it was. And I think he got in trouble with somebody or other, or they made him apologize or whatnot because it gave him a bad name. But also, let's be honest, it was a pretty accurate description. Well, in Chirac, the crime is even worse than they let on. Why? Because the Democrats, they fudged the numbers. But when the news media actually goes to Chirac and they do some actual journalism and reporting and they talk to the people who live there, they find out, guess what? Donald Trump is right. Just like the hat says, Trump was right about everything. Chicago is bad.
I don't live far from here. I could walk here from my own home. It's very jarring. This is becoming way too normal in this city. And while some of the stats are down, that doesn't matter when 2 people were killed next door to you.
Yeah, the stats are down, but oh, guess what? 2 people were killed next door to me. Yeah, but the stats are down. Yeah, but my neighbors are dead. And not just from natural causes. They didn't eat some bad fish. They got killed right next door to me. Yeah, but the numbers are down. That doesn't matter.
Today, you hardly see a police car in the neighborhood. So.
Declan Morgan has owned and operated Irish Nobleman Pub in Westtown for more than 20 years. Yet in recent years, violent crime has literally walked through the front door.
Hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up.
This is video from the bar from when the armed robbery crew came in right before closing, taking cash and belongings from customers, employees, and the pub.
It just seems like crime is really out of control right now.
He and many in the neighborhood contributed to the closure of that police station, and cops in the 12th district now stationed so far away.
We're 600 north here. We're by Chicago Avenue, and our police district is in Pilsen. Mayor Johnson's more worried about his school board and his, pension stuff that he's working on. He should be worried more about the, neighborhoods in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know a lot about the geography that he's talking about, but closing the police station, yeah, that probably has something to do with it, doesn't it? They shouldn't be closing police stations in Chicago. They should be opening more of them. If there's any city that needs more police stations, it's Chicago. If there's any city that needs more police protection, it's Chicago, not less. And that is definitely a testament to that. And these poor men and women in Chicago, these business owners in Chicago, they're just trying to make a living. And people are getting killed and shot and murdered and robbed. And do you know what that does for a pub? When you have a business like that, a neighborhood business, and crime seeps into it, people stop going. And when people stop going to that business, the business starts to lose money. And if they lose enough money, they got to shut down and go do something else. That's what happened. I mean, that's the trickle-down effect of crime. And Donald Trump understands that. J.B. Pritzker does not. Donald Trump understands it. And Kathy Hochul in New York does not. Gavin Newsom certainly does not. These Democrats, they love crime and criminals. They love crime. They love criminals. They love illegals. They love Abrego Garcia, who is going to be sent to Uganda, I think. Is that what it is? So Abrego, I kind of love this story. Let me double check my facts before I get fact checked, because a lot of people, they like to fact me. Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. Before we get to that, let's go and listen in on Donald Trump as he talks about the raid on John Bolton's house. This is live at the White House. We're going to dip in for just a second because I'm really curious about the latest comments Donald Trump has about John Bolton's house raided. Here he is at the White House with President Lee from South Korea.
Okay, how about 1 or 2 more?
Mr. President, have you been briefed on the search of John Bolton's home and office from Friday? Have you been briefed on that?
I have not been briefed. No, I read it just like you did. I was never a fan of his. I thought he was stupid. I thought he was, a guy that only wanted to go into war. He liked killing people. I thought he was essentially a bad guy, but I'm not involved in that. No, you'd have to ask Pam Bondi about that.
Are more raids like that coming, sir? Are more raids like the one on John Bolton's house coming?
More raids? I don't know. You'd have to ask the Department of Justice. They raided my house, I can tell you that. They did a big raid on my house. They took away everything that wasn't pinned down, and they took away some of that too. No, they raided Mar-a-Lago. They started that. These were bad people that we had in our government before. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They went into my wife's area. They went into my son's area, my young son. And what they did was a disgrace. But how did it work out? I see. We're in the. I guess it didn't work out too well for them, did it? They are bad people. They're sick. They're sick people. And they came in with their guns into Mar-a-Lago, like 98 people. I wasn't there. Fortunately, I wasn't there. But they are very evil, very sick people, that group. And if they would have won the election, this country wouldn't exist as we know it. This country would have been a failed country. And now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world by far. We are the hottest country in the world by far. Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. President Lee met with the Japanese Prime Minister.
Okay, all right. They're talking about the Japanese Prime Minister, and not that I don't care about the Japanese Prime Minister, but I don't care about the Japanese Prime Minister. semester. So we'll let them get back. But Donald Trump said, and this reporter, I don't know if this kid's new or if he's just not intelligent, but he should know like everybody knows by now that Donald Trump, I mean, he outsmarts every reporter. Donald Trump can take any question and he can turn it around in seconds. And this question, the guy should have known. Donald Trump's house at Mar-a-Lago was raided 3 years ago, almost to the day. And they went through his wife's area, as he said. I don't know that I would describe it as his wife's drawer. And they went through his wife's, clothing, I guess, closet area is what he meant. But he goes, they went through my wife's area. Again, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna dwell on that. But this reporter should have known. Look, if you ask Donald Trump about raids on political operatives or on political, adversaries, if you ask Donald Trump about that, he's going to say, they raided my house. Like I saw that coming a mile away. I don't know if they set it up for him, but usually what this kid tried to do is he tried to say, Mr. President, are you going to raid other political adversaries? He goes, I don't know, but do you remember when my house was raided? And boom, that was it. He was off and running. Because if the liberals and the media, if the fake news media were smart, which they're not because they lie all the time, but if they were smart, they would know not to ask Donald Trump about raids on political adversaries because he remembers being raided by his political adversary, the former president of the United States of America. They started it. They came into my home with 98 armed agents. They went through my wife's area. And they took stuff that everything that wasn't bolted down and even some stuff that was. They took it. And they started it. This is what they did. I have nothing to do with this. You know who this is? Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has an investigation into John Bolton. Apparently, they believe that he has some top secret documents or he was a bad guy or a no-goodnik or whatever you want to call it. So they got a warrant. The FBI showed up at his house and they took what they needed to take because he's the subject of an active investigation because he's a bad, sick, crazy person who likes war and killing people. But I don't know about any other raids except the raid on my house. How do you not see that you're walking right into? I just don't understand it. A fun fact, by the way, Donald Trump. The other thing Donald Trump likes to talk about a lot is the stock market and Bitcoin and all of his investments. But I have a quick trivia question, and maybe if you're watching online, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, go ahead and answer in the chat. This will be like an interactive part of the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic program. This is financial trivia, to be very specific. Do you know? Can you take a guess? What retirement asset has grown the most in the first 6 months of President Donald Trump's second term? He always talks about the stock market. In fact, he said on the stock market went up 1,000 points last week when I invested when I got 10% of Intel for the United States of America. If you guess the stock market, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Bitcoin is up 15%. 15%. But is that the asset that has grown the most in Donald Trump's second term? No, I'm sorry, it's not. It's not. The answer, of course, is gold. Gold. And we have some great friends at Augusta Precious Metals. And they want you to know that gold is truly a safe haven because in President Donald Trump's second term alone, gold has increased 25%. That is truly a safe haven investment. And if you go to getmarksgold.com right now, getmarksgold.com right now, you can get a free retirement plan or a free retirement information sheet about self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals like gold and like silver. Augusta Precious Metals specializes in helping Americans move their wealth in retirement to self-directed IRAs. They are consistently scored as the most trusted gold IRA company by major financial publications, and they got an A+ rating from the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. So if you're one of those people that has $100,000 or more in an IRA, if you have $100,000 in your 401k, if you have $100,000 in any other retirement account, visit getmarksgold.com. Go to getmarksgold.com to learn how Augusta Precious Metals can help be your lifelong self-directed IRA partner with the best retirement asset of Donald Trump's second administration. If you want, there's a link conveniently located in the description of these videos as well. So you can check those out on YouTube and Rumble and wherever else we happen to be. Hey, speaking of bad investments, Chris Christie's back. Chris Christie's back. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social Let me see. I have this somewhere. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social about Chris Christie's appearance on on ABC's This Week with the guy that's not George Slop, Jonathan Karl. Hang on, let me see if I can. Chris Christie, I don't know. I guess every couple of years they drag him out from wherever he is and they dust him off and they put him back in a suit. And then they have him go out and badmouth President Donald Trump. And I guess because the midterms are getting close or whatever, or maybe because it's the holiday. And, maybe it's a holiday and you had, all of Congress is on vacation. Maybe they couldn't get any good guests. So they got Chris Christie. Well, Chris Christie, I'm trying to find this clip from the actual news show. I have it on my other drive. But Chris Christie was on ABC News. Here it is. I think this is, here it is. Here we go. Listen carefully. This is what Donald Trump is referring to. Let me pull it up here real quick so that you can see.
Look, let's face it. The president said earlier in that video you showed, you didn't show this piece, where he said he's the chief federal law enforcement officer in the United States. Donald Trump sees himself as the person who gets to decide everything. And he doesn't care about any separation. In fact, he absolutely rejects the idea that there should be separation between criminal investigations and the politically elected leader of the United States. This is much different than it's ever been run before. But look, let me say candidly to the American people who are watching, you were told this. You were told that this was what he was going to do. And not by me, by Donald Trump during the 2024 campaign. He told you he was going to do this, that he was going to have a Justice Department that acted as his personal legal representation. And that is what they're doing. And J.D. Vance is just, quite frankly, got caught telling the truth because they are running it.
The fact of the matter, by the way, is that Donald Trump is the lead law enforcement officer in the country. I mean, the president of the United States, that's the separation of powers. That's, what you have Congress, which creates the laws. They draw up the laws. You have the Supreme Court, which interprets the laws to see if they're constitutional and just. And then you have the executive branch, which enforces the law. That's it. It's create, interpret, enforce. Those are the three branches. And Donald Trump 100% is the highest rank. There was a CNN reporter who tried to claim that Pam Bondi, hang on, let me pull this one up too. They tried to claim that Pam Bondi was the chief law enforcement officer. Here it is. This is this woman. I always forget her name, but she just, again, some people, they put them on TV, and I guess, I'll just let her words speak for her.
What Trump said that really jumped out at me is that he said that he hasn't been briefed by the Justice Department yet. He expects that later in the day. But he said, I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer. But then he said he's telling the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, you have to do what you have to do. And right now he doesn't know anything. I looked, the Justice Department on its own website says the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the federal government, not the president.
That is not, she looked on the website. Did she check the Constitution of the United States of America? Before going to the website of the Department of Justice, I would check the Constitution, the founding document, because that clearly states you've got three branches of government. The Department of Justice is not a branch of government. I don't know what Chris Christie and this woman from CNN, I assume she's a woman. I don't want to assume her gender with CNN. It's always tricky. But there's only three branches of government. They like to think that the media is the fourth unofficial branch, whichever that means. They're not. But the Department of Justice is not a branch of government. The executive branch, led by the President of the United States, is in charge of enforcing laws. And Donald Trump is well within his right to say he's the chief law enforcement officer, because guess what? He is. The Department of Justice falls under the executive branch. The FBI and the CIA fall under the executive branch. The Border Patrol, all of these things, they fall under the executive branch. They're not under the Senate. They're not under the Supreme Court. So guess what? Donald Trump once again is right. But he didn't like Chris Christie going out there and talking smack about him. So, of course, he went on Truth Social and talked smack about him and said, I just watched sloppy Chris Christie be interviewed on a ratings challenge news show this week with George Slopadopoulos on ABC Fake News. By the way, what the hell happened to Jonathan Karl's hair? He looks absolutely terrible. I didn't notice. I wasn't paying a lot of attention, but apparently I don't comment on people's hair because, well, obvious reasons. It's amazing. It's amazing what bad ratings on a failed television show that was forced to pay me $16 million, boom, can do to one's appearance. Can anyone believe anything that Sloppy Chris says? Do you remember the way he lied about the dangerous and deadly closure of the George Washington Bridge in order to stay out of prison? Oof. At the same time, sacrificing people who worked for him, including a young mother who spent years trying to fight off the vicious charges against her? Chris refused to take responsibility for these criminal acts. For the sake of justice, perhaps we should start looking at that very serious situation again. No one is above the law. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump, or President DJT, as he put it in there. And he commented about it again in the Oval Office when he was asked about this.
Look, Chris is a slob. Everybody knows it. I know Chris better than anybody in the room. I always felt he was guilty. But what he did is he took the George Washington Bridge, which is very serious. He closed down the George Washington Bridge. And you had medical people, you had ambulances caught up. This thing was closed down. And obviously he knew about it. But he blamed the young lady that worked for him and another person, and they got into a lot of trouble. She ultimately was, I don't know, exonerated, but she got out of it a little bit. But she went through hell. She was a young mother, nice person. I knew her a little bit. And another man went to jail. And Chris got off. And so when I listen to Chris speak his hate, I say, oh, what about the George Washington Bridge? You know, tell me about the George Washington Bridge. He blamed other people, but he knew all about it. So no, I don't know if they want to look at it. It's not for me. If they want to look at it, they can. You could ask Pam. I think we have other things to do, but I always thought he got away with murder.
Yeah, you know what? I thought we got other things to do, but I always thought that Chris Christie was a bad guy. You know what? We're probably not going to look into it, but this guy's getting away with murder. He did. He closed it. It was all for political retribution. He closed down the GW Bridge, and there were some instances of people in that couldn't get to hospitals. The ambulances couldn't get through, and he did it all because, well, he was kind of a thug. I mean, I imagine at some point every governor of New Jersey is kind of a thug, but that was Chris Christie for you. Then he went and sat on the beach, which was closed, and he hugged Obama after Hurricane. What was the hurricane that he hugged Obama after? It was Hurricane, not Katrina. That was the one in New Orleans. It was Hurricane Sandy when he hugged Obama, wept openly in his arms, and many people believe handed him his second term in office, which in hindsight may not have been too bad because we got Donald Trump. Had we had Mitt Romney, no telling what would have happened. No telling what would have happened after that. But Donald Trump saying, look, nobody is above the law. That's what they keep saying to me. They keep telling me nobody's above the law. So I think that, you know what? I think that you should live by your same rules. Same thing with Abrego Garcia. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This story, I got to tell you, it's fascinating to me. Here's a guy who comes to this country illegally. He beats his wife twice to the point where she goes to the police. And this isn't conjecture, right? This isn't hearsay. There's records. There's records on two separate occasions of Mrs. Abrego Garcia going to the police in Maryland and saying, Ayuda, ayuda, my husband beats me. Please, I want a restraining order. Twice that I know of. There could be more times, but there's twice that we know of that she went to the police and she begged for help because her husband was pummeling her. We know that this guy was a gang member, MS-13. We've all seen, the tats on his hand. I guess is it the left hand? I think it's the left hand. I'm not sure which hand the MS-13s do their tats on, but I'm pretty sure it's the left. We've all seen that. Then you've got the information about him, bringing children illegally into this country, human trafficking as part of his, I guess you would say, career path or his career choice. And all of that led to his deportation. Well, Chris Van Hollen, the Democrat senator from Maryland, was not happy that one of his constituents, not really, a Maryland dad, not quite, was deported to CCOT in El Salvador, the notoriously dangerous and bad prison. Well run, but not for the criminals, in El Salvador, where President Bukele puts all of the gang members, shaves their heads, stacks them up on like row by row, and tells them you're never getting out of here. So don't even try. It's meant to deter people from joining deadly gangs and trafficking drugs and killing people and murdering people. And it does, I think, hopefully a fairly good job. Well, Kilmar Abrego Garcia was sent down there, and Chris Van Hollen was so mad that an illegal immigrant from Maryland was taken away from his wife, whom he beats, that he got on a plane. He flew down to El Salvador on your money. He used taxpayer dollars to do it. He said, this is an official trip of the Senate of the United States of America. I'm getting a first class ticket and I'm flying down to San Salvador to drink margaritas with Abrego Garcia, known human trafficker, gang member, and wife beater. And I'm going to do everything I can to bring him back to this country. Not only that, but you had these ridiculous morons in the House of Representatives led by Maxwell Frost, who hopefully will be redistricted right out of a job if Ron DeSantis can get these maps done in time. But you've got these other, they couldn't even get the funding because thank God the House of Representatives is run by Republicans, and James Comer said, I'm not paying for this. You can't use taxpayer money on one of these stupid trips. You've got to use your own money. So they paid, they went down there. They didn't even get a chance to meet with Abrego Garcia. They didn't even get a chance to meet with President Bukele. All of a sudden, Abrego Garcia comes back to Maryland, and guess what? He's now got to turn himself in because he's going to be deported, not to El Salvador, but to Uganda. Uganda. I believe that's where he's headed. And I don't know that he's from. I don't believe that he's from Uganda. Here it is right here from the Politico. Kilmar Abrego Garcia fights imminent deportation to Uganda. Abrego's lawyers filed a new lawsuit seeking to stave off another deportation after he was taken back into custody Monday. The Salvadoran man who was illegally deported to his home country, not illegally, and then brought back to the U.S. is asking the federal courts to once again stop the Trump administration from abruptly casting him out of the country. Surrounded by a crowd of supporters and accompanied by his wife, whom he has beaten twice, at least, Abrego showed up at the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office in Baltimore early Monday for a check-in. ICE officers detained Abrego on the spot. His attorney, Simon Sandoval Moschenberg, is that a real name? Said at a press conference outside the building where his client was arrested. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed the arrest in a statement and indicated that the government is preparing to immediately deport Abrego again. His lawyers have been told the administration intends to deport him to Uganda this time. Uganda go. Uganda. Where's Abrego? Oh, Uganda. Yeah, that didn't work as well as I thought it would. His first deportation to El Salvador in March was deemed illegal because it violated a 2019 order from an immigration judge that barred him from being sent there. After initially resisting court orders to return him to the U.S., the administration brought him back in June and charged him with criminal human smuggling in Tennessee. Abrego has denied those charges. Last week, he was released from Tennessee, allowed to return to Maryland. Then over the weekend, they threatened to deport him to Uganda to coerce him into pleading guilty to the smuggling charges. In a last-ditch legal maneuver Monday morning, Abrego asked a federal judge in Maryland to block his deportation. So, look, you didn't want to go to El Salvador? Fine. We'll find a much worse country to deport you to, Uganda. I've never been to Uganda, but I don't know that he's going to last. He probably would have done better in El Salvador because at least there he speaks the language. This is not an administration that's going to be messed with. This is not an administration that is going to roll over. Donald Trump has spent most of his adult life in court. Roy Cohn was his personal attorney at one point. This is a guy who knows how the court system works. He knows how to win at the court systems. He just pointed out he got $16 million from ABC News. He's sued before, he will sue again, and he will sue until he gets everything he needs and wants. And this time around, he knows how these legal systems work. He knows what he can and cannot do. And if one liberal court judge tells him not to do it, he'll find some other way, hence the flag burning. Flag burning is illegal because it's bad for the country. Nope, that's a violation of the First Amendment. Okay, flag burning is illegal because it incites riots, and inciting violence is illegal. We're going to have to go to court and get back to you. That's how these things work. That's how these things go. Donald Trump knows it. His administration knows it. Pretty soon, Abrego Garcia's lawyer, Simon Sandoval Dershowitz, or whatever his name was. That is a crazy name. That's like a Mexican Jewish name, I think, which makes sense. Sandoval Motionberg. That is interesting. That's a new one. That's a new one that I've never heard of. Anyway, hopefully soon we'll be saying adios to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of sick and tired of hearing about him, although his story is fascinating to me. And if he ends up at the end of the day not in El Salvador but in Uganda, I mean, that's just the icing. That's just the icing on the cake. JD Vance, as I said before. Oh, you know what? Before we get to JD Vance, let's talk about the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, because I'm really excited about it. I don't know I kind of wish, and I know that they're busy. They've got a lot going on there, and I know that there's a lot, like I said, to plan. There's going to be events all over the country, but my family, we plan things really far in advance. For example, and this would be a good time for me to go over the schedule again. Next week, I will be gone. Moving my son into college, and it's a little bit of a schlep. So we're going to be taking a car. We're going to be driving a couple days, to drop him off in the middle of the woods. But it's going to be, so Monday is Labor Day. We're going to take that off. We're going to hit the road. Then Tuesday we arrive. Wednesday we move him in. Thursday I fly home. Friday there should be a new show. If you tune in next Friday, we'll be here all this week. There was some confusion. We're going to be here all this week. Today we're going to be, I'm here right now. You're staring at me, or you're listening to me, whatever you happen to be doing. Tomorrow we'll be here. Wednesday, still going to be here. Thursday, can't get rid of me that easy. Friday, Cha-Ching Chat Friday, wouldn't miss that for the world. And somebody pointed out that to me too. They said, wait a minute, Mark, I noticed that you're off all next week, but you conveniently are planning a show for Cha-Ching Chat Friday. And I said, heck to the yeah, I 100% am planning a show for Cha-Ching Chat Friday. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So this week is a week, normal week here at Patriot HQ in Mar-a-Lago, nestled deep in the heart of Jacksonville, Florida. But then next week we'll be off moving my kid into college. We will be back for Cha-Ching Chat Friday. But I will say we plan everything in advance. So we're already planning, the summer. We've got Christmas planned. We've got all our Christmas plans booked. We got New Year's. And next year, typically we have July 4th plans. We go to the beach. We have a little get together with the cousins and the in-laws. We have a little family reunion. Been doing it for years, but I'm like, hey guys, next year's the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. It's our 250th birthday, a quarter of a century. Donald Trump is president. There's going to be amazing things going on all over the country. Do you guys want to maybe try to do something else? And of course, they're all like, nah, we want to go to the beach and stay in the same place we've been staying at for a decade. And I go, all right. But I know that there's going to be a lot of great things planned. And I know that because Donald Trump's chief protocol agent is talking about all of the things. Monica Crowley is talking about all of the amazing things they're already planning for next year.
We have some incredible events planned over the next year. We just had Army 250 and celebrated the Army's big birthday. We are going to celebrate the Navy's 250th, the Marine Corps' 250th, and then of course starting next year, it is just going to be wall-to-wall events to celebrate our great country, including starting this fall, the National Archives is going to have the first of its kind museum on the Mall in Washington, D.C. that is AI driven, so you can have your own personalized museum experience. So many cool things coming up, not just in D.C., but Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and every state around the country. So I encourage everybody, Laura, to visit America250.org so you can find out what is happening nationally, but also what's happening in your neck of the woods, so we can all come together as a country. And there have been so many divisions, but we're looking forward to this anniversary to unite the country on patriotism, shared values, and this renewed sense of civic pride.
Okay, so there you go. So that answers my question. Where do I go? America250.org. And if you go to America250.org, you'll see, whoa, look at all this stuff. First of all, I'll allow the cookies because I'm a big fan of cookies. It's going to show you everything that we've got going on here. What's ahead? America's President's Gallery, Walk 250, Revolutionary Rhode Island. You can get t-shirts. You can get all sorts of great stuff. There's all these sponsors. What is America 250? I want to go to the calendar real quick and see what's going on here. If there's, like I said, there's events probably popping up. Look at this all over the place. I'm going to go to, well, nothing in Florida yet. Nothing happening in Florida yet. But there's a bunch of stuff in South Carolina. Anyway, look, this is a great place to go because, like I said, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America is something to celebrate, especially since it's an election year and we're running for Congress. So we're hoping to have a lot to celebrate. On July 4th, we're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. On August 18th, we're going to celebrate my victory in the primary over Representative John Rutherford so we can send a constitutional conservative back to Washington, D.C. to represent these great people in the state of Florida. But in the meantime, you've got a lot of great things happening, especially when it comes to the election. And I believe that the midterm election next year isn't going, it used to be 97%. I would run around going 97% of the time, the party in power loses power. 97% of the time, the Republicans are going to lose the House of Representatives to the Democrats. But with what's going on in Texas, with Governor Abbott soon to sign those brand new districts into life. The redistricting was passed on Saturday. Governor Abbott's going to sign it this week, I think today or tomorrow. And then Jasmine Crockett and Al Green and a bunch of other Democrats will be out of a job and we'll have 5 new seats. Yes, I know that Gavin Newsom in California is threatening to do the same thing, but guess what? Governor Ron DeSantis here in the state of Florida said he's going to do the same thing too. So we're going to have a net gain of Republican seats here as well. And the Democrats continue to scream and yell about how it's gerrymandering and how it's unfair, but really, it's not. It's the most fair thing in the world. And here is your vice president, potentially future president of the United States, J.D. Vance, to tell you why.
We had way fewer House seats than we should have. 1, if the Democrats hadn't aggressively gerrymandered, and 2, if illegal aliens weren't counted in the census for purposes of apportioning congressional seats. The best estimates I've seen is that in California, for example, has 5 additional congressional seats than it should have because they count illegal aliens for the purpose of apportioning representatives. Meanwhile, Ohio, my home state, lost a representative. We're literally losing representatives for American citizens in order to give congressional representation to illegal aliens. Republicans are trying to balance out the scales a little bit for basic fairness and for the integrity of our democracy, which the president cares about as much as anybody in the country.
Yeah, the only reason California has all those districts that they can redistrict is because of all the illegals that they apportioned toward their representatives. So now here's the deal. This is why this census has to happen, because, I mean, if Gavin Newsom, and he can't be as stupid as that, if Gavin Newsom begins redistricting, then his districts will have to be redrawn again when the new census information comes out, and California could lose some of the new seats that he redistricted. Florida is going to gain some because, as we know, there's been massive migration to Florida. So it's really going, I mean, it can go back and forth. We could do this all day. At the end of the day, though, we know that we have seen over the last 2 decades an influx of illegal immigrants who've been coming into the country, some of whom who have been voting, and there's proof of that, but most of which have been moving into these blue cities and blue states so that they can gain more and more representation in Congress. Do you remember when Eric Adams, and Eric Adams is proof of this, Eric Adams is about to lose his mayoral bid in New York City to Zohran Mamdani, who is a socialist, about as socialist a candidate as we've ever had. Also, he's weak. He can't even bench press 135 pounds. But Zohran Mamdani is going to win because Eric Adams is going to lose. Eric Adams is going to lose because he told Joe Biden, please stop sending illegal immigrants to New York. We can't handle it. We don't have room for it. It's not going to, they're taking over our city. The crime is running rampant. They're pooping in the streets. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats, whatever. And Joe Biden said no and shut up about it. Why was it that Joe Biden and his administration were pumping so many illegals into New York and telling the mayor to shut up about it? Why is it that when the mayor blew the lid off of what was happening and said, this is bad, this is wrong, this can't go on, they charged him with a federal crime? They forced him out of office and now they're replacing him with a socialist? Why did that happen? Because they lost 2 of their representatives to Florida. In the last census, New York lost seats. They dropped from 30 to 28, and Florida went from 28 to 30. More people were moving out of New York and into Florida. And as a result, New York lost representation because there's a limited number of representatives and it's based on your population. And if your state loses population based on bad governance and horrible leadership, then you don't get the representation in the House of Representatives. The good states do. And Florida, very few states are better. So that's what happened. And Joe Biden's answer to that and the Democrats' answer to that was, well, let's pump more illegals into New York so maybe we can get those seats back. And Eric Adams was a thorn in their side about it. So they got rid of him. Now they're going to put in Zohran Mamdani. It's too late. Donald Trump's back in office. All the illegals are being deported. It's another reason why they want illegals in Maryland. They don't want to lose representation in Maryland. Chris Van Hollen doesn't want to lose representation in Maryland. He wants as much power as he can get. He's a senator, sure, but all these folks, they want as many illegals as possible, because if there's more illegals, there's more chances for them to get seats. That's exactly what it all boils down to. And now this redistricting battle in California and Texas, and probably here in Florida and maybe some other states, is going to redraw the maps entirely for the entire country, change the political system moving forward. And I think that the 97% that we usually see, the 97% of the time that the party in power loses power, I think we're going to see that go down. And I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump wins the Senate back, gets some more votes in the Senate, retains control of the House of Representatives, and could even increase representation in the House of Representatives, which would be truly incredible. Speaking of truly incredible things, we are doing something truly incredible tomorrow night. I do this a lot, but we usually do it on a Wednesday, but tomorrow I'm doing it on a Tuesday. And the reason I'm doing it on a Tuesday is because every time I do it on a Wednesday, people say, "Can you do it on a Tuesday?" And I go, "Sure, no problem." So tomorrow night, Podcast Profits Pro returns. It's a live event where I show you the ins and outs of professional podcasting. If you've ever wanted a podcast for whatever reason, or if you have a business and you believe that podcasting would help supplement your income, it would help get your name out there. If you believe that obscurity is killing your business, and if you had a little bit more notoriety, if more people knew your name, you're right, number one. And if you believe that a podcast is the best and easiest way to do it, you're also right about that. But if you don't know anything about building a podcast for your business, don't worry. I've built two. I know a lot about it. I do it every single day, twice a day. And if you come to Podcast Profits Pro tomorrow, I will show you in about an hour. It's about an hour and a half. We take a bunch of questions. It depends on how many people ask questions. But you can come for free and you can watch me teach you how I created podcasts that profit every single day. And if you have a business, like I said, if you're an entrepreneur and you want a podcast because you know it'll help you grow your bottom line, you're, again, 100% right. There's a reason why Donald Trump went on every podcast he could possibly think of. There's a reason why Gavin Newsom started a podcast right when he started running for office. It's not a coincidence, folks. And I'm gonna walk you through everything. It's free. You have to register. There's a link in the bio of this video to register. It says podcastprofitspro.com. If you're listening to the podcast, just at your leisure, go to podcastprofitspro.com and register for the free event tomorrow night, Tuesday at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern time is when it happens. So make a plan to join us then. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to set those notifications, because we're here all week long. We're here all the time. Over the weekend, I was pumping out some great content too, because when stuff happens, when the stuff goes down, we want you to know about it. We want you to be informed. We want you to be prepared. We want you to have everything you need to fight back against the Democrats. They're coming, they're clawing, they're tooth and nail. They're spending whatever money they can. They're running around the law. They're bypassing the Constitution, and they will not stop until they get back control. And the last thing any of us wants is the Democrats to gain back control. So you've got to subscribe. You've got to stay informed. You've got to stay inspired. I'll also try to keep you entertained to the best of my ability. And together, you, me, and every other Catriot across the globe will continue to fight so that we can save the Republic